We're good? Good. Welcome to my Module 2 analysis of Outcast in literature, as I have titled the Outcast Paradigm. So, what exactly is an outcast? Basically, an outcast is someone who goes against society and the wishes of society. An outcast could be doing this intentionally, as in the case of like rioters or your generic street punks, or maybe not even intentionally. Maybe they're just not able to live up to society's standards. Today, I want to focus on 2 points. The first point is that an outcast is faced with the choice to face their issues and fix them, and whether they do that or not. The second point I would like to discuss is that an outcast performs actions that society might deem as odd or unacceptable. Before we go any further, we must discuss why interpretation of these works are important. In hold up. In Lawrence Perrine's The Nature of Proof in the Interpretation of Poetry, the fewest assumptions of a work backed by the most evidence found in a text has the higher chance of being the correct or being a correct interpretation. A good interpretation is not contradicted by the details of the story. In layman's term, the simplest answers are most likely correct. Our first work we will be discussing is The Love Story of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. Prufrock, as many of us already know, is a lover who is indecisive and cannot seem to express his love. He would be an outcast in society's eyes due to his lack of social skills and his inability to express his feelings out loud. For the most part, Prufrock does this intentionally, continually procrastinating to express his feelings. And Prufrock let his inaction get the better of him. To quote a new criticism interpretation of the poem, quote, "The do I dare of romance is reduced to an act of ingesting a notoriously juicy piece of fruit. Prufrock is defeated in love by his own inaction." This is from Pagnataro. And Prufrock let his inaction get the better of him. The opportunities Prufrock has to profess his love for the woman he likes has torn down the ideas of romance that he has to just fruitful thoughts of love rather than an act of love. However, it's part of a much bigger issue of Prufrock, which is his existential dread of death. So, basically, Prufrock's dread of rejection causes him not to take any risks, which then makes him waste his time, and that time wasted makes him fear his impending death, which causes him to not take any more risk, which repeats the cycle. So Prufrock's fears prove to be a roadblock in his path of life, which further accentuates his indecision. Additionally, we can get some historical criticism out of this piece, as Prufrock offers the reader critical insight into T.S. Eliot's worldview of the changing 20th century. The piece was written in the early 20th century in the second industrial revolution, which saw a lot of change in the economy and social classes, and Prufrock is a interpretation of this. To quote uh, Nancy K. Gish, um, like other modern artists, and unlike his immediate predecessors, he chooses cities as his settings and contrasts the wealthy and the poor who live there. His early characters walk through the sleazy streets of American slums and note their poignant life. Uh, and basically, Prufrock is uh, Eliot's view of the upper class and how this era has brought on a strange power to some people like Eliot, that some strange power that some like Eliot believes is contrary to their own beliefs. Eliot, like Prufrock at the time, didn't know how he fit into society anymore, and was thus more indecisive and scared about their future. Similarly, we will talk about Prince Hamlet. Hamlet also falls into the problem of his inaction, his deep-seated Christian morals, and his fear of death continually makes Hamlet question his decision to avenge his father, which was assigned to him by the ghost of King Hamlet. However, this was a choice by Hamlet to become this outcast and to continue to not to continually go mad and to become this person that he isn't. And he has multiple chances to kill Claudius, but doesn't take them due to his inaction and his morals and his fear of death. However, eventually Hamlet overcomes his inaction by stealing his resolve and finally brings justice to King Hamlet by killing Claudius. Finally, we will talk about the poems Lament and Dirge Without Music, which were both written by Edna St. Vincent Millay. These two tackle the same topic of death from two different perspectives. In each case, the outcast is taking an approach to death which most in society would find to be a strange way to mourn. In the poem Lament, the speaker, a mother, tries to move past the death of her husband without the time to grieve. Quote, "Life must go on, I forget just why." This is most likely just a feeling that the speaker has that everyone dies eventually, and mourning for too long will not change anything. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Dirge Without Music, their speaker does not accept the concept of death and considers it to be useless. Quote, give me a second. Quote, "I know, but I do not approve, and I am not resigned." The author cannot find themselves to accept the fact of death, and yeah, in both cases, they are outcasts because the way that they mourn is considered strange to most others in society. Anyways, that concludes my analysis of the outcast in each of our pieces. And yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.